We're going to do a little bit of some irrigation again today. Show you a couple of things, a little something extra we do on the channel. Help everybody out there in the world, maybe save a little bit of money. Teach you a thing or two. Easy to do. This ain't a cheap gig. I know how much we get paid to do this stuff, and it's not in everybody's budget these days. A lot of people have old systems, they're starting to fail, and you just might not have the time or money to throw into it. So I'm going to show you a couple quick little things today. We're going to do a drip line system. I'm going to show you how to convert a hard line into a drip line. Really easy. The parts for this wouldn't be too expensive either. You can go to your, I wouldn't go to your local, big stores, the HD and the one that begins with an L. I don't know if I can say their names, so I'm not going to, but you know what I'm talking about. One thing too I want to throw in there, I suggest when you do go to this store, stay away from certain products. Try to stick with, and like I say, I don't get paid to say this, this is just from my own personal beliefs and feelings. Hunter products, always a good thing to go with. If you can't get Hunter, Rainbird, but try to stay with those. After you get after those two, those are your top sellers right there, your top quality. Then you got Toro, which does make some pretty neat products. They've got some that are rather different than the other two, so they're always trying to think outside the box. Every once in a while you might see me use some Toro stuff. After that, you start to get down in the Orbit, things like that. I really suggest don't go that route. Their heads may be okay, decent. Clocks, stay away from it. If you're going to get a clock, get a Hunter clock. But let's go ahead and let's go do some drip line. Alright, we're back. A couple of things you're going to need when you're doing a project like this. First of all, know your area that you want to drip line. What we're going to do is we're going to be running drip line in between these plants here. This is some Dianella. We got a couple other things in here. This is a good area for drip line. You're close to the house, so we're going to eliminate the sprays hitting the house, which a lot of homeowners don't like, especially if you have dirty water. You can stain your house up. You don't want to do that. You don't want a poo-covered house. You want to have a good rake. Obviously, drip line. Just a skinny trenching shovel, one about like this. We're not going to really put this stuff deep in the ground like PVC. We're just going to kind of have it maybe an inch in the ground, just enough where we can cover up with mulch and it's not sticking up. This stuff's it's not too flimsy when it heats up. It's got a little more give to it, but a lot of times you'll see people putting this stuff down and you see it webbing up everywhere. It kind of pops up out of the ground. It's not too good looking when you do it like that. Take a little bit of extra time, maybe try to dig it just maybe an inch or two in around your root systems. Also, with that being said, you might want to get some garden staples. That's a really good thing to use. If you don't have garden staples, you could take even just something as simple as an irrigation flag, bend it, take the flag end off, stick it in the ground, use it like a staple. That works too. So I'm going to go ahead and clear out some areas where we're going to be running the line, and then I'll show you how to apply the line to the hard pipe and convert. You're going to want to go right through the middle of these areas. You want to be right up on these root systems. Sometimes you don't even need a trench. You can actually take a hard rake like this and dig back enough dirt to put over the drip line close up to these plants here. Pretty much just going to spaghetti this stuff all through here. Well, here is our spot where we're going to start. Originally there was a pop-up here, a 4-inch pop-up. Now it's really close to the house. It had good coverage, but it was almost overkill for this area. We got a lot of soft leaf plants in here. They don't take too much water. They don't take much of anything really. So we're going to install drip line instead, and that way, like I said, we don't get water spraying all over the house and you get those nice lovely brown stains. Couple things you're going to need for this is this 1/2 inch thread by barbed. This is the adapter we basically use for your drip line. It barbs on the end here. I'll show you how to do that. Also, you're going to need a 1/2 inch slip by female thread. This thread's in. We're going to put a little Teflon tape on there. Screw that in nice and tight. We're going to do this a little different. I'm going to actually put a little bit of this flex line down here, bring that up, and then we'll attach to that. That way we don't have this right on with your drip line coming out of it. This is disaster waiting to happen. So we're going to do this a little different, and I think it's a lot better in the long run to do it like this. Simple as your Teflon tape. I don't know if anybody's ever applied it before, but you want to try to apply your Teflon tape the right way, folks. It's pretty easy, and it makes screwing things on a lot better. Honestly, if you can get it on all the way, so be it. But what I do is I just loop it on one time, hold it down with my thumb, bring it back to me, make it sound a lot easier. Try not to over thread it like that, but we should be all right. You don't need much at all, just maybe 3 loops of that. It's just a little added bonus. Once that's on, you easily just thread this on in. One reason I do it like that is because my thread's going with the way I'm screwing this in. Once you get that nice and tight in there, you want to take your nifty channel locks, go ahead and lock that down to the right size. And let's screw this thing in nice and tight. You want that about as tight as you can get it. Granted, you don't need to put it in a vice grip and go crazy with it. It's not necessary. But you want it pretty tight. You don't want any leaks. Alright, that's pretty tight. Next step we're going to do is we're going to glue our flex on. So for that, you're going to need your flex, and you're going to need a 1/2 inch 90, because we want to bring it up. We're not going straight out. We want this thing not to have resistance on it. If you have a coupling coming straight out and this thing gets moved or anything, that's a lot of pressure on that point. That coupling's eventually going to pop and you're going to have leakage. This being old pipe, I don't want to just take my cutters and cut it. It's liable to shatter. Plus, it was cold today. Any days that you're dealing with cold, you do not, I repeat, do not want to just take your cutters to a pipe. It can shatter like eggs. We're only dealing with 1/2 inch pipe, so it's not like this is hard to saw through. I suggest having a mini saw. Great for tight areas. Another thing, take your garbage out of the hole. Somebody ever comes back behind you one day, I don't know, I don't want them to think I was messy. So you want to try to clean all those shavings off of there. Give it a little tap, and that'll knock things out. Also, any excess dirt we have in there, it's liable to come popping out when you do this. Take your finger, if you can't, get it in there. Try to get out whatever crud there is. Always have a little scrap rag on you. Clean that off good, or you can use some PVC cleaner. It's not really necessary right here. We're not dealing with the greatest pressure in the world. So, a lot of the times I like to put my coupling or my 90 on my flex first. Then I'll apply it to the pipe that I'm using. So to do that, get some glue. Another suggestion on a cold day, let your glue warm up. This stuff doesn't work too well if you're dealing with temperatures. I believe it's rated for, I want to say 47 degrees. They suggest not using it below that. Give it a little spin too. Helps the glue even out. You don't get drips, don't get it running. Don't just hold it down though, because your glue's going to run right in the end of your 90. Doesn't take long to dry at all. It's actually pretty darn quick. Once that's dry enough, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to apply a bead on here. Try to keep your dauber out of the dirt. Try to put it on a little bit of an angle, then come up with it. Straighten it out. That way that bead seals a little tighter. Now we're hooked to the hard line. Fun begins. You know, I call this easy. I say it's easy, but in reality, I can't stand drip line. At least putting it together. Once you get it together, it's not hard, it's just kind of a pain. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut this. We're going to get our flex line laid over a good bit right to the beginning of our plant area. Depending on where your plant area starts, that's where you want to cut it. You can actually run as much as this flex as you need to get to it. You can bury it 1 inch under the ground, 2 inches. That's up to you, and that depends on where your plants are. So my plants start actually right outside your view. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this. 3D coming at you. Is that scary? Having that flex shoot at you like that? Did anybody jump? Alright. So now, from this point, we're going to glue on our adapter to the flex line. Hopefully you can see this, and I can see that I got a leaf in my way. We're going to remove that. So be careful down here as you're moving this flex, though. Remember, it's still kind of tacky down there, so you don't want to go just tearing into this thing and pulling it all around. Put it on, give it a twist. Not too much. Hold some pressure on it for, at least 5 seconds, 10 seconds. You don't want it to push it back off. There we go. That's our adapter right there. We're ready to go. Next step, we hook this horse pipe on, or drip line, horse pipe, something I guess we used to call it back in the day. But always keep your rag around. This glue's a pain to get off at the end of the day. Another thing I suggest having at this time, trusty pocket knife. We're just gonna cut this super industrial strength ties on here loose. Or, I guess I could do it the easy way. There is, if you don't have your knife, right here, these little tabs, if you pull those up, actually, well, I'll say that. Just like that. I don't know what this stuff, why these ties are so strong. I think they have kryptonite in them or something. It's made to bound Superman at this point. Alright, we're loose. This stuff, I like to sit out in the sun too. Let me tell you, it's a lot easier to work with at that point. It's as simple as slipping this on. You just want to kind of work it back and forth. Be careful if you grip it back too far though. You do that, it's liable to do this. So you want to kind of stay up on that fitting like that. Now, if you've never done this, be prepared. It can be a bit of a pain. Also, I suggest let your glue dry a little bit more so you don't get it everywhere or pop your coupling loose. You want to try to get this thing as far on there as you can, all the way to the end. Now, once it's on, it's not coming loose. So from this point, all you need to do is string this through your plants. Let's say you have a real big thick thing of plants and you can't just run one line to cover all the root system. All you're going to simply do, and I'll show you this real quick, this actually has different fittings. Just like any other PVC you work with, anything, you're going to have 90s, T's, and they make couplings also. So if I come to an area to where I need the T off, I'm just going to simply
Don't cut it right here at there's these little emitters right here. This is where your water comes out. Now on the inside of there's a little piece of plastic that stretches about 1 inch. So you don't want to cut it here, here, or here. You want to get away from that area. I suggest usually halfway in between the two drips. Cut it there. Then you would put your T in. Connect to your T, run your other lines. So I'm going to go ahead and run this stuff through all these shrubs out here because I've got a good bit to do. When I get to the end, I'll show you how to pinch this stuff off, and then we'll kind of go through and I'll show you where I've run it and how I've run it. So until then, y'all deal with yours, I deal with mine. Well folks, I guess now we're at the end of our rope or our drip line, and you're either beating your head against a wall or you're happy with what you see, one or the other. I know it's kind of a pain to unravel this stuff and get it put in place, but once it is, you know, it's really, like I said, it's convenient. It's good on water management. It's good on overspray. You're getting a direct shot to the root system, so all in all, it's worth a little bit of trouble of unwinding it, I can tell you that. Another neat thing about this stuff, and I didn't mention it before, is you could hook something like this to a hose bit if you get the right adapters and everything. Even if you don't have irrigation, you know, you could put a battery powered timer on it, or just put a ball valve or something on there, or just turn it on when you want to. You know, you don't need that much pressure for this stuff. It's not like trying to get a head to shoot all the way across the yard. So if you got a small area, let's say even if you put some sod down, and you could take this stuff and build you a grid underneath your sod, and you would probably water it in a lot better than a rotor would actually. Now that's on a small area. I wouldn't try that on a big area. That'd be a bit much. So now that we're at the end, thank you know who, the Lord above, we're going to go ahead and we're going to get this thing set up for the end. Just going to slide on your figure 8 like so. Going to go ahead and find a good pinch point. Going to bring this back, cock it down all the way like that. It's locked in. You can take, if you would like, it's not really necessary, it's just a little extra so you don't end up having any leakage. You can take this little cork and stick it in the end. And we're also going to add a little extra to this. I'm going to take a hose clamp and put it on the end also. So go ahead and get that hose clamp stretched out. You know what? Probably should have put that on first, because I don't know if I'll be able to fit this one over. I'm going to give it a shot. See if we can do this without undoing this all the way. No biggie if we do. We can put it back together. Let's give that a little squeeze, pop it over the top. Now, I suggest putting on a driver, and you're just gonna go ahead and lock that down. Like I said, this is a little bit of overkill, but it's not gonna hurt anything. Last thing you want is this stuff coming wide open and giving your driveway a good pressure washing. So now I am out of what I prefer to use. I prefer to use a darker tape. Sorry about that, camera. But duct tape. Yep, you can bend it, you can break it, you can shake it. But duct tape, it's always there. Fixes everything, you know. Get shot. Duct tape. Anywho, we're going to go ahead and bend that down, that barb right there. We're not going to put much. I'm actually going to come back and spray paint this brown. I don't want the homeowners to come home, even though I know every redneck out there is going, man, what the hell? What's wrong with duct tape? You know, we would decorate our houses in it if we could. I've seen a couple of fellas driving around town that have their whole car done in duct tape. I don't know if that's on purpose or, you know, they're just trying to fix things. But there you go. That is locked and loaded and ready to go. So all I'm going to do is get this on my last plant here. I'm going to lock it into place with some of these that I've been bending. These are just old marker flags, and I took the flag off and I use them as garden staples. They work great, actually. When you do that, I suggest you come in at an angle. If you do it just straight, they usually come out pretty easy, but if you angle these things in and pinch them as you go in, they're going to stick a lot better. So that's all that's left. I'm going to bury this in, cover everything up with the mulch, and turn this joker on and get it watered in. All right, everybody. Hope you all have a blessed day. See ya.